Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hoge, author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. We are starting a new book club today. New book, Charisma on Command. Charisma on Command. Learning how to be charismatic. Charismatic means likable. Whoa, sorry, one second. Likable. Had something fall in my room here. So how to be more likable and why this is important, of course, right? It helps in life in general. So basically social skills, and this will help your English speaking, I think. It's going to help your small talk, your English conversations. It will help you connect with people more, to have a better idea how to have good conversations in English, and of course in your own language too. Will be these skills, these ideas that we will learn in this book will be helpful in English and in your own language too. Helpful to me, actually. I read the first 4 chapters again. It's been a long time since I read this book, and I'm kind of remembering things I haven't thought about in a long time. Things like, oh yeah, I should work on that. I should do that again. Because it's always good to go back and relearn, right? To learn important skills again. So I'm looking forward to this book because I think I need to practice some of these things from the book. So quite looking forward to it. It's a good book. Very much like it. I think you're going to like it. Now, a couple things before we start the book. We'll do 4 chapters today. The first 3 chapters, well, the first 2 chapters are just like introduction. And then after that, we'll start getting into some of the main ideas. There are 30 chapters, so we have a lot to learn. First, update number 1, Power English is now available again on my website. I know many of you were having some problems buying it. We just had a problem with one of our website pages, so that's why some of you were trying to pay with your credit card. It was not working. So it was a website problem we had. We fixed it. It's now fixed. So now no problem. You can buy Power English on the homepage, effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Go there and, of course, join my VIP program. Speak English powerfully, fluently. If you are just starting, you might start with Power English. That's available on our homepage, effortlessenglishclub.com. Let's see, point number 2. I'll talk about another. Actually, I was going to say I'm back doing jiu-jitsu. Some of you ask about why my hand is injured. It's not a jiu-jitsu injury. It's a baby injury. It's from holding a baby. It's actually called, it's something called mommy's thumb or mother's thumb, because a lot of moms get it holding babies too much. So it's actually super painful. So you could research it. The babies have injured me. All right, let's just jump in. We can get into comments and questions. Let's get into our book, and then I'll come to your live questions and comments. So I'll share my screen if you're watching on video. Into the book, chapter 1. Let's start. Here we go. Just make sure you can see it, okay? Yeah, it looks good. All right. Chapter 1 is just the writer, the author's story. So nothing too interesting in terms of being useful for skills or anything like that. Don't need to worry about it. Let me just move some things on my screen here. Okay. Yeah, so he just tells a story, basically. He tells a story about how he liked some girl named Jane. Okay, he was shy. So the writer of the book here, Charlie Houpert, I believe is his name. He talks about how he used to be shy and like his motivation to be more charismatic, his motivation to be more likable, his motivation to become more charismatic really was girls. Okay, he wanted to, which is true for a lot of guys, right? He wanted to meet more girls. He wanted girls to like him. He wanted to date more girls, and specifically, there was one girl he liked named Jane, and so he would try talking to her, and then he got really embarrassed one day. One of Jane's friends said to him, Jane doesn't want to hang out with you anymore, right? Hang out means like socialize, right? Be around. So he liked this girl. He was trying to talk to her and be social. And finally, she told one of her friends, and the friend told the writer, Charlie here, said, Jane doesn't like you. Basically, Jane doesn't like you. So stop bothering her. And if, any men, and young men especially, that's, it's really embarrassing, right? You feel super embarrassed if something like that happens. He felt super embarrassed. He was kind of a shy guy, and he thought, what's wrong with me? Why are my social skills so bad? My conversation skills are so bad. This girl didn't like me. And in general, people didn't listen to him. He just was not... He wasn't, there's nothing wrong with him. People didn't hate him. It's just he was kind of shy, quiet. Nobody listened to him. Nobody really didn't like him so much. So he decided that he would, he actually moved. He wanted to learn Spanish. So he moved to Costa Rica. He's American. He moved to Costa Rica. And he decided to work on his social skills while also doing Spanish. So he decided he would just start talking to people constantly in Costa Rica. And in fact, he would just ask for directions. Even if he knew where he was going, he always knew where he wanted to go to the bank. He already knew the bank, but he would still ask somebody, how do I go to the bank? Just to practice his Spanish, but also, more importantly, to practice chatting with people, to talk to strangers, because he was shy. So he pushed himself. He pushed himself to talk to new people constantly, just 5 minutes or something like that. And he says that things started to change. He made friends just from doing this. That sometimes he would chat. He would ask directions or what time it is, and then start talking a little more. And then sometimes they would keep talking, and he would make new friends. And basically, little by little, his social skills improved. He got better and better. He became more and more likable. He went back to America, and he saw Jane again, and she noticed that he was different. She noticed that he was more talkative, more confident, and she actually became interested in him, but he didn't care about her at that point. So anyway, it's a nice little story. And then he had another friend, Ben, who I've actually talked to, another guy. They have a company together, Charisma on Command. They share the YouTube channel, Charisma on Command. So they're kind of business partners, he and his friend Ben. And Ben also had problems, similar problems. So they both decided together, let's work on our social skills. They started to research this, read books about social skills, conversation. They started to try lots of different techniques about how to be more likable, more talkative, more social. And they just kept trying again and again and again, talking constantly to people. And they got better and better and better. We learned how to connect with people on a real level. They learned how to connect with people. And then he says, then they moved down to, where did they go? They went to Brazil, down to Rio. And I think, they met a lot of people there. They were when I talked to Ben, I think they were living in Colombia. I don't know where they are now. Anyway, the main point of this chapter 1, are these points. He says, number 1, most people tell you charisma is natural. You can't learn it, right? And we know that, in fact, that there are people who are naturally charismatic for whatever reason. One second. Please, comments in English only, guys. But they say charisma can be learned. You can learn it. It's like building muscle. It's like getting stronger physically, right? If you train your muscles, you will get stronger, get more endurance with your muscles. Yes, some people are naturally stronger genetically, but anybody who's very weak, if they train, they will get stronger, right? And he's saying charisma is the same. Social skills are the same. Even if you're very, very, very shy, your social skills are bad, you are not likable, don't worry, you can learn these things. There are specific skills you can learn. You can get better. You can learn better social skills. You can become less shy, more likable. And he says basically you need to train. Like an athlete, you need to train. Charisma can be trained. Like working out. All right, onward to chapter 2. Why people think charisma is innate. Nice word. Innate means it's natural, right? It's something that's natural inside. The word in, right? Inside. It means it's like it's genetic, really. Like you cannot be learned. And he says the reason is that it's most people, we don't really understand what is charisma, right? We just kind of feel it. We feel it, right? We feel certain people are very likable immediately. There's some, and he mentions some famous celebrities, right? That if you see them in a talk show or in interviews, like very quickly they just seem there's something a little bit extra special about them where they're kind of extra likable. Sometimes they're very funny. He mentions Russell Brand as a comedian, and he is likable. Like I don't even like Russell Brand's politically as an idiot. I completely disagree with everything he thinks, but he is a very likable guy. He's funny. I like him. I think he's funny, and when I see him in interviews, yeah, he's very likable. So this is the point, and I think it's a good test of charisma, is that when you maybe completely disagree with somebody, you don't like their beliefs at all, and yet you still kind of like them. There's something emotionally you feel like, I kind of like this guy. And so that's like Russell Brand for me. I don't, I've listened to him talk about politics, for example, and he's like a Marxist, almost a communist, and which I hate all of that, but he's also funny, he's witty, he's charming, he's a very likable guy. He has great charisma. It's true. So that's what it is. But it's hard to figure out, like, why, right? Why? Because, okay, Russell Brand, and then, then maybe there's Donald Trump, and then there's Bill Clinton. Okay, these three people have very different personalities, but they all have charisma. So what is it exactly? Sometimes it's hard to figure out how do you do it? And this is why shy people have such a hard time. Because shy people, they just don't, people with, who don't have a good social skills, they can't figure out, right? Like they just don't understand, like why when I have a conversation, why don't people listen to me? Why don't they talk to me? And then somebody else says the same information, they're saying the same thing basically, but everybody loves them, everybody listens to them. Why? What's the difference? Right? So this is the problem. And it is challenging. So in this book, they identify why, like the very specific things that we can do. Next, they talk about basically that the reason you need to do this, that in life, this is the number one key to success, in their opinion. Social skills, your relationships. They say you need to connect with people. You need people to like you. You need to like them also. Your relationships with other people are the most important factor in deciding the quality of your life. So that's a big quote. Your relationships with other people, right? Your relationships, so that means, that might be girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, your children, your parents, your friends, people you work with, your bosses, just people in your town, right? Everybody. All those different kinds of relationships are the most important thing the most important factor, the most important thing in deciding the quality of your life. So high quality life, meaning you're happy and successful. Most important, your relationships. If your relationships are bad, quality of your life, probably bad. It's a good point. And then they make an even stronger statement. The only thing that really matters in life are your relationships to other people. Interesting. I think they're right. And I'm an introvert, and this is not a strong point for me. I'm not naturally charismatic. I'm certainly not naturally social. So part of me, wants to resist what they're saying, but, I think they're actually right. Because I can see in my own life what gives me the most happiness. My wife, my children, my close friends. So it's true. All right, now we move on, and we're going to get more specific finally. So the first two chapters were really an introduction. Now in chapter 3, we're going to get specific. What is charisma exactly, according to them, according to the writer, and how do we create it, right? If you're not charismatic, if you're an introvert like me, if you're kind of shy, if you're just terrible socially for some reason, well, how do you change? How do you get better? We start here. Charisma equals, they have a formula. Charisma equals conviction plus energy plus presentation. So they're saying 3 major parts of charisma: conviction, energy, and presentation. Let's talk about the meaning of these words. Conviction means strong belief. Strong belief, like a strong, confident belief, right? It means being sure, right? So like, for example, you can say, yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of think that. That's not conviction, right? If you say kind of, it means a little bit. You're not sure. So you lack conviction. You don't have conviction. But if you say 100%, this is important. 100%, I love this. That's conviction, right? It's a strong belief. It's total confidence. Conviction. So they're saying this is very important. This is a weak point of mine, actually. This is something I have to work on sometimes. I'm pretty good at doing this in my podcast, but in my social life, I often don't do this. And they're right about this. So they're saying conviction is the heart of charisma. It's the belief. Here's the cool thing. So it's a conviction of optimism. It's the belief that things will work out. Everything will be okay. Somehow, some way, your goals will be achieved. No matter what, everything will be okay. It's confidence in the face of the unknown. Nice. Now, see, this is if we understand this, now you understand why it's so likable. It's basically strong optimism, right? So they're saying the most important belief, the most important conviction, strong belief, is that you believe everything will be okay, right? It's a kind of powerful optimism. I would call it faith. I think faith is an even better word, but conviction and faith are they're not exactly the same, but they're kind of close in meaning. They're similar, synonyms maybe. Okay? That you believe somehow you will succeed, right? So this is the important part. They say is it's confidence in the face of the unknown. It means, anybody can be confident when you know everything, when it's obvious. But it's harder to be confident when everything is unknown. Like you're not sure, but you're confident anyway. You're optimistic anyway. This is difficult, right? So it's being confident. It's having a positive, optimistic attitude, even when you're not sure, when everything is unknown. You have no idea what's going to happen, but you have a strong belief. Somehow, everything will be okay. Somehow, you will finally succeed. Somehow you'll finally survive. Somehow you'll finally be happy. Everything will be okay. You don't know how. It is faith. I think faith is the word I would use. So faith, strong conviction. And then you have to communicate that beyond words, right? So this feeling of conviction, of faith, of strong optimism, it's not just what you say. It's more your attitude. It's more the emotional feeling of it. Other people feel it. When you are strongly optimistic, when you have this faith, this conviction, people feel it, even if you don't say anything, right? So it's not just saying positive things. Oh yeah, everything's going to be fine. If you say it in a weak way with a weak voice, that's not conviction, right? So it's having that powerful. This is something I need to work on, honestly. I've kind of gotten worse about this one. So this is a good reminder for me. So it says just focus on your beliefs. Okay, and here's another part of he says religion, of conviction. So faith, number one, and number two is honesty. When you're talking about conviction, is that strong, positive optimism. But number two is also being very open and honest about what you think, about what you believe. This is a super weak point for me in my social life. Again, not in my podcast, not in my show. I'm very, very open and direct with you all. But when I'm in a social situation, I will often kind of stay quiet about something. If I have a strong belief about that where I disagree with everybody, or it's a controversial, I think a lot of people won't like what I think, then I often will just be quiet, right? I'll try to be diplomatic, avoid an argument. But they're saying that's actually a bad idea. They give examples. Have you ever misrepresented your religion or political beliefs because you're worried how other people will think, what other people will think? Do you stay quiet in order to avoid disagreement? I do this all the time. And this means, you're not valuing your own voice. You're not valuing your own opinions. So it kills your confidence. So it's saying they're saying that you should just be open and direct, even about things that you disagree with. I'll give you a good example of this. Would be the China virus, right? The current China virus. So as you know, I've said many times on this show, I have a very strong belief it's exaggerated. It's just a bad flu. The lockdowns are nonsense. It's a media lie, an exaggeration. It's bullshit. It's nonsense. I do not wear a mask when I'm walking around. Never. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's all political. So I have very strong beliefs about this. In the beginning, I wasn't sure. Now I am. Very strong beliefs, and I'll say it very directly to you. But if I'll give you an example. When I was talking to my dad about this, talking to my father on the phone, he is the opposite. He's so scared about it. He's so scared about this China virus, and he's so worried that, and he really, really believes the news. He really thinks it's true. And I just kind of stay quiet talking to him. Like, I don't push it very hard with him, right? Because I feel I'm trying to avoid upsetting him and getting in an argument. Maybe that's the right thing to do with my father. But I don't need to try to be likable with my dad. I mean, he's my dad. I've known him for my whole life. But let's say in a party situation, they're saying, actually, that's a mistake. It's a mistake to stay quiet. It would be much better. You'd be more likable by being honest. But you don't have to be angry about it. I think that's the key. Sometimes it's hard with these topics to not be angry because, like this virus thing, I just think it's so stupid. And it kind of makes me angry sometimes when people are so crazy about it. But I think the key is to be honest but still cheerful. Honest but still just smiling about it. Just say, yeah, I think this is nonsense. I think it's exaggerated. I think nothing to fear, really. And just be really open about it. That's more charismatic. It shows more confidence. because you're being real. You're being honest. You're not being fake. You're not pretending. You're not trying to stay quiet. You're just being open and really honest about what you think. So this is a very, very important skill to be more likable, for charisma. And this is a very difficult skill, I know, because it's difficult for me. So I know this is a very difficult skill for people who are shy, who are introverts, who don't like arguing and things. I think, like I said, I think the key is you don't need to argue about it. It doesn't need to become angry. I think the key is to be honest but cheerful. And then if someone tries to argue, you just laugh about it and say, well, yeah, I think it's nonsense, but I don't care. Wear a mask if you want. I think that's probably the way to do it. But it's a good point, and this is a really strong one if you have problems, if you're shy, to just start being more open and honest. And it's the same, about your religion, right? Whatever your religion might be, or if you have no religion, just be honest, just be open about it. You don't need to change someone else's mind. And they talk about this in the book as well. This is the key point too, and this is in the next chapter, that when you have conviction, when you're honest, you just say what you think. You say your beliefs honestly. But at the same time, you accept the other person's also. You don't try to change them, right? So it's a little difficult, right? Because we're so used to arguing, and we have to someone has to be right. It's hard not to do this. Like with my dad and the virus, right? The best thing to do would for me to just to say, yeah, I think it's exaggerated. But then he says, no, I think it's real. And I'd say, okay, well, just, be careful and not just be kind of okay, right? I don't have to change his mind. There's no reason. And he doesn't have to change my mind, right? Just let him have his belief and I'll have mine. Doesn't hurt me. If he wants to wear a mask, if he's afraid, it's not hurting me in any way. So there's no need for me to change his mind. But also there's no need for me to pretend that I have a different idea. Or there's no need for me to be quiet about it. I think this is a very good point. We're really kind of at the root right now. Well, with the charisma in this book, we'll get to more specific little tricks of conversations. But this is really more about your mindset. This is really kind of the deepest level and probably, the most difficult level, I think, for people who are shy or introverted or quiet or just not likable. All right, so finally we go to chapter 4. And they're going to talk about this convictions more. Convictions, meaning strong beliefs. And they're going to give some examples of what kind of beliefs do you need? What kind of strong beliefs do you need to have to be likable so that people will like you? To be charismatic. Okay, belief number 1, conviction number 1. I'm okay. I will be okay. So they said this in the last chapter. Basically, it's a strong optimism that you're fine. You're not perfect. You have weak points. You have weaknesses. You have problems. Some things you're not good at. It's okay, right? I do, but everybody does. Every human does. But you're still okay. You're totally fine as a person. You're okay now. Okay? And in the future, you're going to be okay. This is, again, a kind of faith. And they say one way to avoid being worried all the time is do not focus on like possible bad situations. Like, what if my boss doesn't like my opinion? What if the girl doesn't like me? Right? That it doesn't help you. This just makes you feel weak and will make you be pessimistic. Don't worry about it. Just ignore those worries. And they say, yes, you might fail, but so what? You have this belief that, yes, I might fail this time, but I will be okay. Even if I fail, I'll be okay. I'll survive. I'll keep going. Right? They say if you make an ass of yourself, if you embarrass yourself, it's not the end of your life. You'll still be okay. Like they give the example with a guy asking a girl for a date. And what's the worst you could do? What's the worst possible thing? You see this girl, she's beautiful. Oh, you think she's great. You say, hey, let's go have coffee sometime, whatever. And she says, oh no, what's the worst, the most terrible thing you could imagine that would happen? I don't know what. She'd slap you. She says, oh God, you're stupid and ugly. I hate your guts. Go away from me. And that would be the most extreme, right? Maybe that's the most. So even if that happened, even if it was the most terrible thing like that, so what? You survive, right? I mean, they're just words, right? It's nothing. You walk away. You're going to feel bad, of course. Your feelings will be hurt. You feel some embarrassment, but it's not the end of your life. There will be other girls, right? The next one might love you. The next one might be great. And in fact, a girl who acts like that, if a girl really did act like that and say, oh, go away from me, you ugly, stupid idiot, then maybe you realize that, oh, this girl's not very nice, right? It's a pretty mean thing to do. And you actually would learn something that, oh, this girl, maybe it was just a fantasy in your head and this girl's not such a great person, right? Because a decent person, a decent girl would try to not to hurt your feelings. Even if she said no, she's not interested, right? If she's decent, if she's has a good heart, she's going to say, oh, I'm so sorry, but right, she's not going to try to be mean to you. She'll say, I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I mean, she'll think of some way to do it in a kind way. And again, you'll feel embarrassed, but it's not the end of your life, right? You will survive. So this is a very positive thing to realize, that failure will not kill you. Okay, belief number 2 that you need to have charisma. Okay, these are kind of beliefs or mindsets that you need. The book is called Charisma on Command. Charisma on Command. How to be more likable. Charismatic. Okay, number 2. I care more about my character than the opinions of others. This is a big one. A lot of people focus on what other people think, right? That's why they're so worried about failure. That's why they get embarrassed. That's why they're shy, because they're afraid of what other people think. So Charlie here, the writer, saying, focus instead on your character, what your goodness, in other words, your virtue, right? Doesn't matter what other people think. It's what you know about yourself, right? If you know that you're good and honest, it doesn't matter if other people think you're a liar. So what? It doesn't matter if you know in your heart that you're honest. If you know that you're an honest person, that's what's important. Focus on the truth, right? Your real character. Your character here means like your kind of your virtue, who you really are on the inside. Focus on that. Do not focus on the opinions of others, because the truth is, there will always be people who don't like you. There will always be people who disagree. Okay? Even if you master everything in this book, right? And you become super charismatic, super likable, super famous, there are always going to be people who hate you. Look at any famous person. I mentioned Russell Brand. Definitely there are people who hate him. He's a comedian. He's a British comedian. There are people who do hate him, right? And he's super likable, but lots and lots of people like him. He's become rich because he's so likable. He's funny. But, of course, still some people hate him. So if you become rich, if you become successful, there will always be people who criticize you. This is life. You cannot avoid it. So don't worry about it. Right? They say you will always have haters. True. And the more confident you get, the more successful you are, you'll notice them more. You have to just say, I don't care. You don't care what they think. It doesn't matter, right? Focus on the people who like you. Right? He says, what strangers think about me is none of my business. All right, number 3, belief number 3. It's connected to the last one. I have impeccable integrity. Integrity, again, means virtue. It means virtue. It means there's basically here he's talking about especially honesty. So again, he's saying, be honest. Don't tell little lies, not even little lies. We all sometimes will tell little lies, right? We say, oh, to save someone's feelings or something, right? Or like what I do is I just stay quiet. This is sort of my problem. My personal weakness is, like I said, with my dad, I'll just stay quiet. I won't lie. I won't say like, oh yeah, this virus is so deadly. Oh, I'm so afraid. That's lying. I'm not going to do that. But I just say nothing. And they're saying, but have like perfect honesty. Be perfectly honest. Always say your honest opinion. Always say your honest belief. This is going to help you be likable in the long run with most people. People will respect you more when you do this. They will like you more when you do this. Even when they disagree, they'll like you. Okay, and then the one I was just talking about, belief number 4, charisma doesn't convince. So do not try to persuade people. Do not try to change their mind. He says, don't expect anything from other people. Someone with real charisma respects that other people have different opinions. Respect other people's opinions. Respect their different opinions. You don't need to change their mind. And this is also a great way to relax and have better connection, better relationships with people, right? If you don't have to change their mind, you can just relax. Just be yourself. They can be themselves. You disagree about some things. It doesn't matter. Who cares, right? We don't have to agree about everything all the time. It's not necessary. And it says part 2 of this, don't seek approval from other people. They don't need to like your opinion. So you don't need to change their mind. And also, you don't need them to accept your belief. You don't need them to say, oh, you're okay. Doesn't matter what they think. And also point 3, you will eventually meet people who agree with you, okay? You're going to have people who disagree, and sometimes you're going to meet people who do agree, right, about these things. Like this virus situation's a good example. I've met, and I know, and I see it in our chat, lots of people who agree with me and think exactly the same thing. And there are people who disagree with me. Doesn't matter. You don't need to force people to change, is another way they say it here. You do not need to force people to change. This includes your family members. It includes friends. It includes strangers. You don't need to force them to change. This is what I realized, with the virus thing. For a while, I was trying to talk about all, being honest with how I feel about it and why I think it. And then finally I realized I don't need to change anyone's opinion. It doesn't matter. People are really worried and think it's deadly, fine, wear a mask and stay inside and wash your hands all the time. I don't care. Go ahead. It doesn't matter. That's fine. And then they give an example of this using dating again. Dating, these are good examples with dating because dating's emotional, especially for men, for boys. It's, very stressful. So these are good situations to talk about for charisma. So the example, he says, if a first date, like you go on a date with a girl and doesn't like you, do not beg for a second date. Ask someone else out, right? Date another person, right? So let's say there's a girl, you think she's attractive, you like her. You ask her to go out to do something. You actually go on the date. But then during the date, it's not very good. It doesn't go well. She doesn't actually like you. Right? It happens, right? It's not a very good date. Don't beg her. You could If you like her, you could say, hey, you want to go out again? If she says no, that's it. Just accept no. You don't have to try to change her mind. She doesn't like you. So what? Just say, okay, fine. And then go ask out, find another girl. Right? Don't get stressed about it. Don't try to just focus in on one girl and try to change her mind. If she doesn't like you, she doesn't like you. Move on. Or maybe she likes you. She thinks you're a nice guy, but she's not attracted to you. Right? Doesn't want to date you. Doesn't want to be your girlfriend. And girls, it's the same thing. Same thing. Right? You go on a date with a guy, and then he doesn't call you after. Just let him go. You don't need to stress about it and call him back. Why didn't you call me? Just let him go. Okay? Yeah, maybe he's just not interested in you. So what? There are other guys. Okay? Date someone else. It's very good advice. It will make the dating process much less stressful. This is also true for any kind of social relationships. Now this is a great one. I like this next one. This one I have used. I remember when I read this book, I use this one a lot in conversations. It is very powerful. Charismatic people, likable people, communicate their purpose. So it says find a purpose, or you can have more than one purposes. We don't find the purposes, right? The big reasons, it's bigger than a goal. It's like it's the meaningful missions in your life, the purpose, or I think really we usually have more than one, the purposes in your life. What are those things bigger than yourself that you care about, that you focus on, that you work for? So for example, I'll just give you some examples. One might be your family, right? Not just yourself. One of my purposes is to be a great father, right? And to do everything I can for my children, right? And maybe a purpose is to, help people around the world learn English and travel and communicate together, right? So you can see these are two of mine, right? It's bigger than me. It's not just me. Like if it was an individual, that's more like a goal. Like a goal would be, I want to make $1 million next year. Okay, that's nice, but it's very selfish. It's just me. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay, but it's not a purpose. And what they're talking about is when you have a conversation with someone, talk about the big things, those big purposes. So if you're a father and being a father is one of your big purposes in life, right? It's one of your big missions. You're going to be very emotional about it. You're going to have very strong beliefs about it. Talk about that. Right? Not just the weather. Oh, it's a nice sunny day today. Talk about, I have 3 children, and they're the center of my life. My children and my family. That's my number one purpose in life, and I'm doing everything I can to teach them and protect them and work for them. And you get into a conversation about that, and you will connect with people. People understand that, right? That's an emotional topic. It's a powerful topic. People will really feel that. This is how you connect with people and possibly make friends in the future. If you just talk about the weather, it's easy. It's hot today. Yeah, it's hot. It's okay is like the first thing you say. But I know a lot of people, and I do it myself when I'm antisocial, where I only talk about those very shallow topics, right? So like if I'm in a taxi, I talk to the driver and I say, yeah, really hot today. Yeah, it sure is. And oh yeah, and how about the baseball game yesterday? And I don't, right? But sometimes I have, with a taxi driver, I've talked about more something like this, purpose. Like maybe he asks about what I'm doing. I've been working. I've got 2 new children, and then boom, and I'll start talking about purpose, and then I will just naturally get very passionate, right? Conviction, strong belief. He'll feel that. Maybe he has a similar purpose. Maybe he also has children. Boom, we're going to connect, and it's going to be a very powerful conversation. Maybe he doesn't have children, but still he's going to feel it. And he might talk about something else that is a purpose for him. So this is a big one. It works. This is true. Talk about those deeper, most important topics for you, the purposes in your life, those big things that are most important to you. Try to get to those deep topics faster. Don't just focus on the, small talk. Good advice. It works. This works. I was practicing this when I read the book the first time. It does work very well. Okay, and then it just says, take some risks is the final one, and then give some examples. Take risks. In other words, kind of lead the conversation when you meet people. Don't just sit and wait. Like they say, be the first one to be fun or to be funny. Sometimes everybody's serious, like you're at a business meeting. Don't be afraid to be the first one to start telling some jokes or to act silly, right? Like if you're in a silly mood, or if you're kind of more of a silly person, right? You're not so serious, then go ahead and be not serious. Have some fun. Be fun if that's your personality. If it's not your personality, don't have to pretend. But sometimes we feel we're kind of holding inside, right? Like I'm actually kind of a silly person myself, but I don't show it with people I don't know. Like my family sees it all the time, but other people not so much. It's probably a mistake. I should do it more. Another example they say is talk about topics that are crazy or that people usually avoid, right? If you think something crazy, say it. Like just be really open is what they're saying. Be more open. Don't be afraid to talk about some topics because most people avoid them. Clear boundaries. This is another one. This is one where if someone insults you or does something you don't like, you have to tell them directly, I don't like that. They give an example in a business meeting that there was a guy in a business meeting and the president of his company, his boss, his big boss, insulted him, said, don't be a pussy, means don't be a wimp, don't be weak. And the guy did not like it. So what should he do? This is the big boss, the president of the company. A lot of people would just stay quiet, not say anything. But he decided, he said to the guy directly, he says, don't ever say that to me again. And he, in a very serious tone, looked him right in the eyes and said, don't ever insult me like that again. Right? He was willing to lose his job if he had to. And what happened? The boss respected him and apologized. Right? So again, a lot of us will stay quiet in these situations, but when people insult you or they push, we have to be, it's called being assertive or having a boundary. It means if they do something like this, you have to kind of put your hand up and say no, right? It means basically saying no. It means telling people if they insult you, if they do something wrong, you tell them, you say, I don't like that. That's wrong. Don't say that to me. And that's hard for some people. It's very hard for me to do socially. So I get, but these are things we work on. These are skills to practice, okay? Don't feel bad if it's hard for you to do some of these things. So don't be afraid of conflict, in other words. I find, in self-defense, like, street fighting, self-defense, they have just a couple phrases you can use in these situations. I quite like that because sometimes when I get upset, if someone says something like that to me, like my brain almost turns off because I get so angry. And so it's nice sometimes just to have like one phrase. Like my phrase, one common phrase is just back off, right? It means get back off. So you can use that in many situations. Someone's being aggressive to you, someone insults you, you can just say back off, right? So if you even just have one phrase like that, it kind of tells people, hey, stop. Or you can just say stop or stop now. You can just have one kind of strong, direct phrase or even word, and that's sometimes useful. So you don't have to have a long explanation. Just something very short, like one word or a little phrase. Back off. Stop. Okay, it's saying you do not have to be happy all the time. Charismatic people, likable people, it's not true. Some people think, oh, you always have to be happy. It's not true. You have to be what you need to be is honest and direct. So if you're not happy, don't pretend to be happy. Say directly, I'm not happy right now. And then finally, it says charismatic people reveal their flaws, reveal their weak points. So they're not afraid to show their weaknesses. This is nice too. So it means you don't have to always pretend to be strong all the time. And like right now, as we talking about this book, I'm being very honest about my weak points. Right? I'm not, several of things we just discussed, I'm not very good at those things. I'm better doing them like in a presentation, like in public speaking or in a podcast, a camera. It's easier for me. It's pretty easy for me. I'm really good at these things, which is why I'm more charismatic on camera or on a stage. But in a more like casual social setting, then I find actually some of these things much more difficult to do. So I totally understand that. I understand the weak points. These are good things to work on. I'm going to try working on some of these myself. So I'm glad we're reading this book. All right, let's see. Let's get into our comments and questions now live. I have to turn on the fan for a minute and cool my room down, so you're probably going to hear that. Sorry. Okay, Jermila says, I started reading the book 2 days ago, but I'm slow. I've downloaded it to my PC. No worries. You can, if you haven't read these chapters, just go and go read it after this video. It's okay. Yeah, Sapir says, finally AJ's back after 6 days. I've been busy with a few things. Number one, I started training jiu-jitsu again. I'm so happy to be back doing jiu-jitsu. So I kind of got a little crazy with jiu-jitsu the last week just because I'm so excited to be back. And then just baby stuff and some other things. But anyway, it's kind of the summer, a little bit lazy. But I'm happy to be back. And this is a cool book. I'm really glad we're doing this book. The reason I'm glad is I need this book myself. I'm kind of weak in some of these areas, so I'm very happy to be doing this book. There's a lot of things I can see as I'm reading it again. I'm like, yeah, I kind of forgot a lot of these things. These are great things to work on. Erdem says, greetings from Utah. I didn't know you were in Utah, Erdem. Good to see you. So someone again is asking the name of the book. It's Charisma on Command. On command means when you want it, anytime you want it. So it means that anytime you want, you can be likable, and right. You don't always have to do it. That's the other thing. Okay, that's the other thing about these skills is you do them when you want to do them. When you want to be charismatic, when you want to be likable, you can do these things. And when you don't care, you don't have to. So many situations, I have to be honest, is in many situations in life, I don't care. So I will not do these things. Right? Like sometimes I'm tired or I'm thinking about something else. And if I'm like, let's say I get a taxi and I don't care about having a strong connection with the taxi driver. I just want to go to some location and I'll just sit there quietly and I'll say nothing at all. It's fine. That's totally fine. But in other situations, maybe you want to be very social. So it's your choice. It's good to have the choice. If you can do this when you need it, you can also turn it off. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. So it doesn't mean you always have to be super outgoing, especially if you're an introvert. You know, extroverts maybe love doing this all the time. My friend Joe, he's like this all the time. He never stops. I find it exhausting sometimes. I'm like, Joe, stop talking to everybody. You're making me tired. If I'm out with him, you know, but you know, he loves it and it's just natural for him and he's an extrovert. Whereas for me, I use this very selectively, right? I do this only at certain times and most of the time I'll be quiet. Mohammed Karimian says, every time I feel I'm giving up, I turn on your program. All of a sudden, I become so good. I always owe you, my dear coach. Well, thank you. That's nice. I'm glad to help your motivation. Well, people are asking about my hand. This is a baby injury. It's called, I think it's called mommy's thumb is the kind of slang. It's from holding babies too much. And they're getting heavy now. Our baby's getting big. And it puts this pressure on my thumb and wrist. And we have twins. I'm doing it all the time. And sometimes I've got this weird angle that, I'm holding them and trying to feed them at the same time. And it has stressed out over the last several months. It has stressed out this wrist. And it's super painful right now. So it's not connected to jiu-jitsu at all. It's a baby injury. Nadir Khan says, I think Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates do not have strong charisma. Correct. But they became famous. Well, they're rich, yes. Why do you think they became like this? Well, charisma is not the only skill. Some people are good in investing. Gates got really fortunate. Some might say lucky. Some might say there was some corruption, whatever, in the early days of computers, personal computers. Zuckerberg, again, kind of stole some of his stuff for Facebook. And, it's not the only skill. He was kind of pretty mean, tough, and he had some banking connections and things. So, yeah, it's not everybody, every rich person, every famous person is not necessarily likable. You're exactly right. I agree with both of these. They're very uncharismatic. Bill Gates is unlikable, in my opinion. You see him in an interview and just automatically ugh. And Zuckerberg even more. Zuckerberg, there are a lot of memes, there are jokes on the internet that Zuckerberg's a robot, right? He's not even human. He's an alien or he's a robot because his social skills are so terrible. Yeah, they're very unlikable. So it's possible to be rich and not be likable, for sure. Right? There are many ways to make money. George Soros, totally unlikable, super rich. So I wouldn't say that, being charismatic can help in business for sure, in many businesses, being a leader and all that, but there are also other ways to make money without being likable. So, but being likable has other benefits in life. It's not just about money. In fact, money part is probably the smallest benefit. Oh, Knowledge Away Mentor saying, I'm a big fan of yours. Tell me how to speak in front of thousands of people like you. Some of these skills will be helpful with that. But not all of them. You've got to, the truth is, so you're talking about public speaking, you've got to learn, again, public speaking, these are skills, right? I was not good at it when I first did it. So what you do is you practice a lot. Actually, talking to video like this is a great way to practice public speaking. I recommend Dale Carnegie's book on public speaking. Public Speaking by Dale Carnegie is a great way to start. And then you got to get up and you start by talking to small groups, 10 people, 30 people, doing it a lot. Being a teacher helped. I was talking to my classes all the time. And then hopefully your audiences get bigger and bigger and bigger as you build your skills. So that's how you do it. It's little by little. Do you practice jiu-jitsu? Yes. Just started. White belt. I'm a white belt. Let's see. Oh, here's Vladislav. I need to go immediately. My mom called me. I wish you a nice day. See the recordings. Sorry I missed you live, Vladislav. See you later. glad you could make it for a short time. Here's Sarah. Good to see you, Sarah. Everything depends on the situation. Sometimes you can do all these things, but sometimes you need to be yourself. Yeah, and you'll see in this book, it's not fake. They like they say, you should be honest. So it's not about being dishonest or you don't need to be a different person, but it just means being more open. And for introverted people, this requires energy. That's the key thing, right? So it's not being fake, but it does require some effort. For extrovert, so I'll use the two super extremes. My friend Joe is a super extrovert, and I'm super introvert. So in a natural situation, we go to a party. Let's say there's a dinner party with a bunch of new people. Joe is going to be talking to everybody constantly. As soon as he arrives, he's going to be talking, right? No energy or effort necessary. He loves doing it. It's just very natural for him. For me, when I walk into a party like this, I have a choice, right? Because naturally, I would just be quiet. All right. Naturally, I would sit there and be quite quiet for a fairly long time. Maybe eventually talk to one person in a very relaxed way. However, if for some reason I feel that I want to connect better, be more social, I can do what Joe does, right? I can use the things in this